Hola, amigas y amigos, y bienvenidos a esta lección sobre por y para. Vamos. That's right, my friends. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about the words por and para. Now, the rest of this title here, perhaps you can figure out what it says. A memorizar o conceptualizar o los dos. This means to memorize, to conceptualize, or both. So, the reason I've titled this particular title is that por and para present a specific challenge, a special kind of challenge to non-native Spanish speakers. And we who are trying to learn the language have got a bit of a struggle on our hands because por and para are often translated similar in English, but then oftentimes they're translated completely different from each other. So we need to start getting our heads around what the actual meaning behind por and para is. So we can do that through two different ways. We can just go word by word or a scenario by scenario and memorize which one you would use, por or para. Or we can try to grasp the concept that made the native speakers come up with two different words and try to find the actual concept that underlies these two words. So that's going to be my goal today, and boy is it a challenge for me to try to figure out a way to conceptualize and convey what I have come to understand about por and para. But by golly, I'm going to try today. So let's go ahead and jump right in. Here we can see, let me move my guy over here. On the left, we see the way we have defined por and para on our vocab list for this Unit 7. And I'll be honest, this list is not comprehensive. There are many different ways we could translate por and para, and the examples that I've given you as definitions are just the ones that I'm going to use commonly in class. So if your purpose is just to get through this class, and I know there are some of you that are out there that just want to pass this class, then maybe it is going to be best for you to just stick with trying to memorize these definitions. I do see the word for in there twice, which we're going to talk about a scenario here in a minute that might make those clear that they are not the same kind of for. But if you're just trying to get through this class, maybe memorizing is the best option for you. Just memorize the definitions I've given you, and I will try to stick with those on my assessments and stuff. But I really would love, for those of you who want to go on to speak Spanish as a second language, I would love for you to know the actual difference in meaning between por and para. So I found this chart online when I was doing some research about how I wanted to teach this lesson. And here we see the contrasts between por and para laid out. I guess they're trying to dive here at the conceptual underlyings of these two words. So the words for por on the left, let's see. I did it for love. Lo hice por amor. In contrast to the goal on the right side, lo hice para mejorar. I did it to improve. Then they talk about travel versus final destination. I love traveling around Mexico. I love traveling through Mexico, you might say. That would use por. I would love to travel to Mexico. That would use para. That's the final destination. During or time period, I worked at night, or you might say I worked like through the night, versus I have to finish it by Thursday. There you've got a deadline. Then we've got this, it is written by Garcia Marquez, versus it is dedicated to Garcia Marquez's wife. Again, we've got the means by which the book was written, and then we have the destination or the dedication, what the book is for. On the right side there, Garcia Marquez's wife. So, to me, when I looked at this chart, I'm starting to kind of see some patterns between the uses on the left, the por side, and the uses on the right, the para side. But I'm going to try to make those patterns, I'm going to try to lay them bare for you all. Hopefully, maybe you can start seeing the patterns that I'm noticing on this. Not a very useful chart, actually. I don't want to just have to memorize this chart. So here we go. I'm going to try to drive at the concept of por and para using these diagrams that we saw in our last lesson. Here we see the word a. I've tried to illustrate the underlying concept of a, or the word to in English. So it has a beginning, then the preposition to represents the relationship, the spatial relationship, or it could even be a temporal relationship between the start and then going to the end. In the middle here, we have durante, during in English. So the arrow here representing an action or an occurrence that happens in the middle of another action or event. So the two trapezoidal time pyramid or time columns there or whatever represent, let's say, a movie or a sports match or a play or any kind of event, then something happening in the middle of that. This is my diagram to explain the underlying concept of during, durante. On the right, alrededor de, we've got, well, an obvious reference to the planets going around the sun here to represent an object's motion around a central object. This is my diagram of alrededor de, around. I'm going to try to take this diagram concept and use it to better explain por and para as best as I can. So bear with me. Here you have it. This is my diagram for por versus para. And what I think of is that really por and para, they're related to each other. They are on the same arrow, but they focus in on different parts of that arrow. Por, indicated in the red side of life over here, inside the red box, kind of looks like my during diagram because por is used as through. It focuses in on the journey of the event. Okay? So I drive through the mountains. So you could literally look at those as mountains, and then I'm driving, my arrow is the driving, going through the mountains. And then we would use por. Yo manejo por las montañas. Now, look on the right side of the screen. We're looking at the para side of the arrow. Notice the para hones in on the destination, where things are headed, where they terminate, where they end. So, I drive to Mexico. That is where my destination ends. Yo manejo para Mexico. You might even translate that as I drive toward Mexico, because Mexico is the end destination. We're going to use para. So again, por focuses on the journey of the action, whereas para hones in on the end, the termination, the destination of that action. So let's try and see if you can use this abstract concept that I'm trying to relay, this diagram characterization, and let's try to apply it to this scenario. This is an example where por and para would both be translated in English as the word for. So we're going to read the scenario together, and then I'm going to pose a question for you, and I want you to try to use the journey versus the destination concept to decide which for would be translated as por and which for would be translated as para. Here we go. Enrique is dating Carla, and tomorrow is Carla's birthday, all right? But Enrique forgot to get Carla a present for her birthday, and he's got to work all day. So Enrique asks his friend Andrea to pick up a book that his girlfriend Carla has been wanting. And Andrea does just that. Andrea goes and gets that book that Enrique is asking her to get for Carla's birthday. Here we go. Let's look at the following sentences. Okay, again, I want you to think about the little diagram at the bottom left there. Think about por being focused on the journey of an action, para being focused on where it's ending, or I guess in this case it wouldn't be the journey of an action, but it would be the journey of the book. Here we go. So consider the following sentences. Number one, the book is for the boyfriend Enrique. It's a true statement. Carla did get this book for Enrique, right? And then look at the second sentence here. The book is for the girlfriend Carla. So as I mentioned before, one of these sentences is going to use por, the other one's going to use para as translations for. I want you to pause for a second and see if you can suss through this and come up with the correct answer. I'm going to explain the correct answer in 3, 2, 1. All right, so I'm looking at the book is for the boyfriend, okay? As in, he used Andrea as a means to get this book, but I want to know where that book is ultimately gonna land. Where is that book's final destination? So, the book is for Enrique in the sense that that is the means by which the book arrives at its final destination. Therefore, the first sentence, the book is for the boyfriend Enrique, would use por, because por focuses on the journey. And that book is going to end up as a gift in the hands of Carla. So the book is para Carla, because that is where the final destination of that book ends. In our statement, the book is for Carla versus the book is for Enrique, but he's going to be giving it to Carla. So hopefully this is helping you get your mind around the por versus para idea. Let's look at some more examples. So here we have some more examples, and I want you to try to rationalize the journey using por versus the destination using para. Here we go. He throws the ball through the window. Imagine the trajectory of the ball and imagine where the window is in that trajectory. Is the window the destination, or is the ball continuing on beyond the window if he throws the ball through the window? Hopefully you're realizing that it goes beyond the window and lands on the other side. So so through here is going to use por or para. Which one was the destination focus? Por. All right. Now, he throws the ball toward home plate. Think about the ball. Think about its trajectory. And what's the aim? What's the end game? What's the final destination? Hopefully you're noticing that's the home plate. So when we think about the end game, the final destination, are we thinking por or are we thinking para? Hopefully you're saying para. The trap was set to catch the intruder. All right, think about this. What's the goal? What's the aim here? What's the end game? It is to catch the intruder. That's the end game. That's not the means, that's the end. So what are we thinking if that's the end? That's the goal, that's the destination. That is para again. I am who I am because of hardship. It's for all of these things in my life that make me who I am. But it is throughout my life because of hardship. Was hardship a means or was hardship the destination? Was hardship the means or was hardship the destination? Hopefully you are realizing that hardship was the means. Hardship was the journey. Hardship was not the goal. It was not what I was aiming for, but it is the journey that brought me to where I am. So, por, because of that hardship. Let's do a quick recap together. Por and para, they can have similar translations in English, but conceptually they do have significant differences, as we've tried to illustrate today. There are two ways that you could approach this. A, you could memorize all the possible translation, keeping in mind that the ones on our vocab is not comprehensive. Okay, that list is not fully fleshed out. There are other translations that you will run into in the real world. Or B, you could try to grasp the differences between the spatial relationships that they represent. Could be temporal relationships as well, spatial and temporal relationships that they represent. And that's kind of, B is kind of what I tried to give you today with my diagram as best as I could. But most likely, you're probably going to need a combination of both of these approaches. You're going to need to start trying to understand the concept on your own, whether my diagram helped you or not. If you want to move forward in Spanish, try to start wrapping your head around the differences between these. And I think just seeing examples of those as we go throughout this unit will be helpful in start developing your own concept of the differences between por and para. So here on our last page, para, remember, represents the final destination of an object, an action, or an effort, or some event. It's the final destination, whereas por hones in on the journey before the destination. So looking at these examples, I'm trying to contrast por and para within each of these. I drive through the mountains, journey, to the sea, destination. Because we had a map, so there's our means, all right? The means to get somewhere was the map. We were headed toward the correct destination. That was literally has the word destination in there. That's our end game, our goal. That's where we're headed. Para. We worked throughout the night. Okay, so we went through this medium of the night. We went all through the night journey in order to, there's our goal, all right, so that in order to have the project done by morning, there's our end time. So both of those were para. In order to was para, and then to be done by morning, para, because both of those are end goal, objectives and then end goal time. Well, folks, I hope I've done justice by por and para. I know conceptually this is a bit of an oddball, and I've had a hard time figuring out how to put this into words. So this is my first attempt at it. I might have to remake this video as I get questions and feedback from you all. But hopefully this first time around did okay by you, and come to me with your questions, and I'll be more than happy to try to explain further if that's what you need. Gracias por su atención durante esta lección. Hasta la próxima. Chao.